2016, there was a really unusual event with a stampede down a stairwell in which all different kinds of people, including disabled people, adults, and children, were pushed down a staircase, and they were pushed down backwards, including some people being thrown with their heads cracking on pavement. And I don't know the names of the minors who were involved in this child abuse, but it was abusive to everyone, including adults and disabled people as well as children. But is that something that I could report to you? It happened at the mayor's office. Mayor Charlie Hales. The police.
Someone will call you back. Alternatively, contact us via the website findcallum.org.uk.
Hi there. Malcolm's really sorry. His other meeting overran, but he's on his way now. Can I get you a coffee or something while you wait? Can I have a glass of water? Sure, no problem.
There are a lot of witnesses that we could track that down. Like, I have friends of friends who can specifically name who the victims were, and I do know that at least one minor got pepper sprayed in the brutality, and there were several head injuries as well as a broken bone, like a shattered arm bone, and that people were literally being trampled and stomped on down the stairwell as they were being pushed back and given head injuries. Yeah, and then I think some sheriff's deputies showed up later on. Okay.
All right, Sammy boy.
I'm going to much now.
Okay.
Going to get me driving.
Is that right?
Sure.
Can I please?
Go for it. Hiya.
Hi. Did Mum ring?
Didn't hear the phone. At least I don't think it did. Everything okay?
Yeah, that I wouldn't mind doing that. I would appreciate that, actually.
End of Anita though, leaving nursery.
I've been settling in for weeks. He's more than ready. Just don't let me feel
Don't.
sorry.
Hey, remind me before we get off the phone that there's like a second part of my call. Yeah.
We're coming up on the 5th anniversary, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to remind people that Calum's still out there.
Okay.
And he was 4 when you went missing.
Okay.
Yes, he'll be 9 now.
And you basically got up one
6904.
morning and found him gone.
Yes. Well, he'd got out before.
Sure. Okay.
He never gone further in the garden though, so I thought it was just a silly game.
Well, it's okay. I have a regular phone. I can throw in the one there. Yeah, that's no problem.
Which is when we knew that he'd been taken.
And after all this time, you still have no idea where he is or what happened to him. I can't imagine how you live with that.
Well, we keep going. We have to.
What? Yeah, like kind of how it bothered me was I don't understand how police themselves are supposed to be mandatory reporters of child abuse, yet they can do public child abuse in a public place with lots of cameras and media present. They even assaulted the media, like Coin News. And if you want to see the footage, the event happened on the 12th of October. And to me, it just causes a sense of distrust of the city, of city council, of the police, and proper procedure for any kind of successful evacuation of a building. Like, you don't have to push people backwards down some stairs when they're tripping on. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
no problem.
Right. Yeah.
We'll then run over the new phase of the campaign.
Yeah.
To the public, as we discussed. And if there's anything you want to add, then
I would love to definitely give you my number just in case the supervisor has like a best strategy, because there are a lot of other processes and procedures that I'm trying to explore. The second thing I had to bring up though is that we are the journalists are really doing the bulk of the work, but the fellow who just got appointed to be police chief had an incident of manual strangulation and choking of his stepson's neck, which to me, I just say son. I don't think it's any worse or better just because he's a stepson. But he smashed his head through some drywall, and then the police covered it up to prevent it from hurting his career. And we like the activist community, have been bringing this up at some community meetings about how that, especially with this other incidents of all this violence, is creating a sense of distrust. But what I was wondering was, like, from a child protective services standpoint, how can police be mandatory reporters and also be perpetrators of domestic violence or child abuse? And, like, is there any way you guys could help us with that kind of a problem where no one seems to be taking it seriously?
Mom? You're not going to
Yeah.
the child.
I'm thinking it may already be reported, but I would like to report it as well, especially because he's now been promoted to this high position of authority, and it's it's all in the media, it's all there. But the guy's name is Mike Marshman, and it's Marshman. I don't know the victim's name, and I think the journalists maybe protected the victim because he's a minor, or he was a minor at the time. And supposedly the police entered into conspiracy to prevent the aggressor from facing justice by retaliating against the whistleblower by testing for DNA when an anonymous letter came into the Portland police trying to report the crime. And supposedly the offender, or the perpetrator, Mike Marshman, who's now the police chief, admitted to having choked and strangled his son, which he basically ran out the statute of limitations and then tried to say, oh, it was just a misdemeanor, or it wasn't that serious. But the son supposedly lost consciousness and couldn't breathe, and then was extremely traumatized. And I feel like nobody's really being there for that minor who was abused, and it feels like a slap in the face of all strangulation victims or minors who've been child abuse victims to have someone like that in a position of authority to make or break cases, including child abuse cases.
Come on, Luke. It's a lovely day. Today's like this, the dark.
Okay. I believe it happened in 2006 or thereabouts. Like, it's quite an old case, but it was covered up for some time.
Karen's still asleep. Nina. I thought she was in with you.
God, not again.
Daniel!
That's what I know so far, and what I'm also concerned about is the level of complicity from the mayor, from the city council, they've hired some $1 million consultants from Chicago who we kind of grilled at the meeting the other night, basically trying to get them to admit that there is such a thing as a mandatory reporter, and the mandatory reporter isn't supposed to cover up for child abuse. They're supposed to take it seriously, and or domestic violence. But I mean, I don't know if those people need to be reported too. I feel like they just need better education, really.
Come on, out.
I want a recon mission.
I don't care about a recon mission, Callum.
Darling, you must never go out on
Yeah.
your own. You listen to me. Oh, you're so scared, baby. Oh.
You have to remember to keep the bolt on.
Mm-hmm.
I did. How exactly was it to you?
Yeah. Yeah, and to my knowledge, it happened in Multnomah County when Marshman was in a lower level position in the Portland police. And there were other instances of stalking activities and harassment of exes and like other peculiar behavior. So it wasn't like an isolated incident. I think there was another incident of hitting or something that had been somewhat documented. It looks like the family was really coerced into being a part of the cover-up to a certain point, but then somebody broke the silence.
We can't ignore them. Well, we don't know anything for sure yet. Then that's what I'll tell them.
Oh no.
That's no problem. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you too, Angie. All right, bye-bye. Hey, where are the boys?
They're outside. They've been done. Right. I'd say it's bath time.
Perhaps you could call them to come in. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, him, Mike Marshman, is the one overseeing this brutality that happened on the 12th. And to me, when someone is, like, a known offender with bad judgment, then if they're repeatedly making more and more catastrophic mistakes, which there was another really severe brutalizing incident of a disabled man on the 27th of June, which I called into Adult Protective Services because I didn't understand why behavior like that could happen in a public place against an elderly disabled man in front of the police chief, and the police chief is not acting like a first responder, he's acting like a perpetrator and then participating in a cover-up.
Coming up, please.
Season up a bit, though, Frank. I'm as limber as ever, don't you worry. You better be. Lots to do before tomorrow. We'll be ready. We always are.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Mary Eng. The last name is E-N-G.
Something was a break, that one.
It's 503